The rain hammered against the floor-to-ceiling windows of the 42nd floor, each drop catching the city lights like fallen stars. Marcus Wellington stood in his corner office, watching the storm rage over downtown Atlanta, his reflection ghosted in the glass. At 38, he had built an empire from nothing, his tech company now worth over $200 million. But tonight, something felt different. Tonight, the weight of success felt heavier than usual. The elevator chimed softly behind him, and he turned to see Elena Rodriguez pushing her cleaning cart into the hallway. She moved with quiet efficiency, her weathered hands gripping the handle as she navigated between the expensive furniture. Marcus had noticed her before, working late into the night, always with a gentle smile despite the exhaustion that lined her face. If you've ever wondered what real strength looks like, take a moment to subscribe and join others who believe in the power of everyday heroes. "Good evening, Mrs. Rodriguez," Marcus called out, stepping into the hallway. Eleanor looked up, surprised. In 3 years of cleaning these offices, the executives rarely acknowledged her presence. "Oh, good evening, Mr. Wellington. I'm sorry if I disturbed you. I can come back later." Her accent carried the musical cadence of her native El Salvador, each word carefully chosen. "Not at all. Actually, I wanted to ask you something." Marcus approached slowly, noting how she tensed slightly. "Your daughter, she's in college, right? I remember you mentioning it." Elena's face lit up despite her fatigue. "Yes, sir. Isabella. She's studying pre-med at Emory, working so hard, that girl. Sometimes I worry she pushes herself too much, but she says she wants to help people like her papa did before." Her voice trailed off, and Marcus caught the shadow of old grief crossing her features. "That's incredible. Medicine is a tough field." Marcus paused, studying Elena's face. Something in her expression reminded him of his own mother, who had worked 3 jobs to keep him in school. "Is everything okay? You seem worried about something." Elena hesitated, her fingers tightening on the cart handle. The fluorescent lights hummed overhead, casting harsh shadows in the empty corridor. "It's nothing, sir. Just Isabella, she might have to drop out next semester. The financial aid, it's not enough anymore. And She stopped herself, shaking her head. "I'm sorry. You don't need to hear about my problems." But Marcus was already reaching into his jacket pocket. "How much does she need?" "Sir, I couldn't possibly—" "How much, Mrs. Rodriguez?" Elena's eyes filled with tears. "45,000 for the year. But please, I wasn't asking for—" Marcus pulled out his checkbook, the leather soft and worn from years of use. As he wrote, the only sounds were the scratch of his pen and the distant rumble of thunder. When he tore off the check and handed it to Elena, her hands trembled as she read the amount. $50,000, she whispered. "Mr. Wellington, this is too much. I can't accept this." "Yes, you can, and you will." Marcus's voice was firm but kind. "Your daughter is going to be a doctor. The world needs more doctors, like Isabella will be. Doctors who understand what it means to struggle." Elena clutched the check to her chest, tears streaming down her cheeks. "How can I ever repay you?" "Just promise me something," Marcus said, his voice softer now. "When Isabella becomes a doctor, when she's helping people, remember this moment. Remember that kindness creates ripples we can't always see." 3 months later, Marcus had almost forgotten about the encounter. His days blurred together in a succession of board meetings, investor calls, and strategic planning sessions. The company was preparing for a major acquisition, and the stress was taking its toll. He found himself working later and later, often staying until Elena arrived for her evening shift. It was on one of those late nights that everything changed. Marcus was reviewing contracts when he heard voices in the hallway, sharp and aggressive. He looked up to see 2 men in expensive suits cornering Elena near the elevator bank. Their body language was threatening, and Elena was backing away, fear evident in her posture. "We know you have it," one of the men was saying, his voice low but menacing. "Your husband was very specific about where he hid the evidence before he died. We've been patient, but our patience is running out." Marcus stood up, his chair scraping against the floor. Through the glass walls of his office, he could see Elena shaking her head frantically. "I don't know what you're talking about," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "Carlos never told me about any evidence. He was just a maintenance worker at the hospital." The second man stepped closer, and Marcus could see Elena flinch. "Carlos Rodriguez wasn't just a maintenance worker, and you know it. He saw something he shouldn't have seen, and now we need what he took." Marcus's blood ran cold. He grabbed his phone and quickly dialed security, but the building's night security was minimal. Just one guard downstairs. These men looked dangerous, and Elena was in immediate peril. Without thinking, Marcus strode out of his office. "Gentlemen, is there a problem here?" The two men turned, their expressions shifting from aggression to calculated politeness. No problem at all, sir. Just having a conversation with Mrs. Rodriguez about her late husband." "It's late," Marcus said, his voice carrying the authority of someone accustomed to being obeyed. "I think it's time for you to leave." The first man smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "Of course. But Mrs. Rodriguez, we'll be in touch soon." They walked to the elevator, and Marcus watched until the doors closed behind them. Only then did he turn to Elena, who was leaning against the wall, her face pale and drawn. "Are you okay? Do you want me to call the police?" Elena shook her head quickly. "No, please, no police. It will only make things worse." "Elena, who were those men? What evidence were they talking about?" She looked at him for a long moment, as if weighing whether to trust him. Finally, she spoke, her voice barely audible. "My husband, Carlos. He worked at Mercy General Hospital. He was there for 23 years, cleaning operating rooms, maintaining equipment. He was invisible to most people, but he saw everything." Marcus guided her to a chair in the reception area, noting how her hands shook as she sat down. What did he see? There was a surgeon there, Dr. Harrison Blackwell. Very important man, very respected. But Carlos, he started noticing things. Patients who went into surgery with Dr. Blackwell, some of them, they didn't come out the same, or they didn't come out at all. The name hit Marcus like a physical blow. Harrison Blackwell was one of Atlanta's most prominent surgeons, a man who sat on multiple hospital boards and had been featured on magazine covers. He was also someone Marcus had met at charity galas, a man who moved in the same social circles as Atlanta's elite. What kind of things did your husband notice?" Elena's voice dropped to a whisper. "Dr. Blackwell. He was operating on patients who didn't need surgery. Healthy people, mostly poor people. People without family to ask questions. He was billing insurance companies for procedures that weren't necessary, sometimes procedures that were harmful." Marcus felt sick. How many patients?" Carlos kept records for 2 years before he died. He photographed documents, recorded conversations. He said he had proof of at least 30 cases where Dr. Blackwell operated unnecessarily. Some patients died, others were left disabled. Elena's tears started again. Carlos was going to go to the authorities, but then he had his heart attack. "Those men, they think you have Carlos's evidence. Carlos hid everything before he died. He told me where, but he made me promise to only use it if something happened to Isabella or me. He said these people were dangerous, that they had too much power." Marcus leaned forward. "Elena, where is the evidence?" She looked at him with eyes full of fear and exhaustion. "That's just it, Mr. Wellington. I don't have it anymore." The silence stretched between them, filled only by the hum of the building's ventilation system. Marcus felt a chill that had nothing to do with the air conditioning. "What do you mean you don't have it?" Eleanor took a shaky breath. "Out of 3 weeks after you helped Isabella with her tuition, she came home excited about a new opportunity. A research position with a prominent surgeon who was impressed by her grades and wanted to mentor her. The position came with a full scholarship for her remaining years of medical school." Marcus's stomach dropped. "Who was the surgeon?" "Dr. Harrison Blackwell." The pieces fell into place with horrifying clarity. Marcus stood up abruptly, pacing to the window. The city lights blurred as he processed what Elena was telling him. His act of kindness, his generous check, had somehow led Isabella directly into the hands of the man her father had been trying to expose. "Elena, does Isabella know about her father's evidence?" "No. Carlos made me promise never to tell her. He said if anything happened to him, I should protect her by keeping her ignorant. But now," Elena's voice broke, "now she's working directly for the man who might have killed her father." "What do you mean, killed?" Elena looked up at him, her eyes haunted. "And Carlos was healthy Mr. Wellington, 49 years old, no history of heart problems. But the week before he died, he told me Dr. Blackwell had started asking questions about him, wondering why he was working late so often, why he was in areas of the hospital where he wasn't assigned." Marcus felt the weight of responsibility settling on his shoulders. His money had made Isabella visible to Blackwell, had put her in a position where she could be used as leverage against Eleanor. What would you do if your kindness accidentally put someone in danger? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Where did Carlos hide the evidence? Elena hesitated, then reached into her purse and pulled out a small key. "Storage unit, downtown. Unit 247 at secure space on Peachtree. But Mr. Wellington, if we go to the authorities now, Isabella..." "I understand." Marcus took the key, feeling its weight. "But we can't let Blackwell continue hurting people, and we can't let him use Isabella to control you." "What are you suggesting?" Marcus looked out at the city, his mind racing. "I'm suggesting we get the evidence, and then we find a way to protect Isabella while exposing Blackwell. But first, I need to know exactly what we're dealing with." The next morning, Marcus called in sick to work for the first time in 5 years. Instead, he drove to the storage facility with Elena, both of them silent during the 20-minute journey. The facility was in an older part of downtown, surrounded by warehouses and small businesses that had seen better days. Unit 247 was small and cramped, filled with boxes and filing cabinets that Carlos had somehow acquired over his years at the hospital. As they opened the first box, Marcus was amazed by the meticulous organization. Carlos had been systematic in his documentation, creating a paper trail that would make any prosecutor's job easy. "Look at this," Elena said, holding up a photograph. It showed Dr. Blackwell in an operating room. But something was wrong with the image. The patient on the table was clearly conscious, their eyes wide with terror. Marcus examined the photo more closely. But this patient wasn't under anesthesia. Carlos said Dr. Blackwell sometimes performed procedures with minimal sedation to save money on anesthesia. The patients were paralyzed, but aware of everything happening to them. The next box contained financial records, showing payments from insurance companies for procedures that the medical files indicated were unnecessary. The amounts were staggering, millions of dollars over the course of 2 years. But it was the third box that contained the most damning evidence: audio recordings, dozens of them, captured on a small digital recorder that Carlos had hidden in his maintenance cart. Marcus played one at random, and Dr. Blackwell's voice filled the small storage unit. "Oh, the Rodriguez girl is getting too close," Blackwell was saying to an unidentified man. "Her father was asking questions, and now she's asking the same questions. We need to handle this situation before it becomes a problem." Elena gasped. That's Isabella's voice in the background. Marcus listened more carefully and could indeed hear a young woman asking about patient files and surgical schedules. Isabella had been investigating on her own, following in her father's footsteps without realizing the danger she was in. "Eleanor, we need to get Isabella away from Blackwell immediately." "But how?" "If she just disappears from the program, he'll know something is wrong, and those men, they'll come after us." Marcus was quiet for a moment, thinking, what if Isabella didn't just disappear? What if she had a better opportunity somewhere else? "What do you mean?" "I have connections at Johns Hopkins, at Mayo Clinic, at some of the best medical programs in the country. What if Isabella received an offer she couldn't refuse, a full scholarship to complete her medical education somewhere far from Atlanta? Elena's eyes lit up with hope, but then dimmed again. But the evidence? What about exposing Dr. Blackwell? We do both. We get Isabella to safety, and then we take everything we've found to the FBI, not the local police, not the state authorities, but federal agents who can't be influenced by Blackwell's connections. They spent the rest of the day copying files and organizing evidence. By evening, they had assembled a comprehensive case that documented not only Blackwell's medical fraud, but also his systematic targeting of vulnerable patients. The recordings alone were enough to put him away for life. That night, Marcus made several phone calls. By morning, he had secured Isabella a full scholarship to Johns Hopkins, complete with a research position that would begin immediately. The offer was so prestigious that no one would question Isabella's decision to transfer. But when Elena called Isabella to share the news, her daughter's response was unexpected. "Mum, I can't leave right now. Dr. Blackwell is depending on me for a major research project. And besides, I think I've discovered something important about Dad's death." Elena's blood ran cold. "What do you mean?" "I've been going through old patient files, and I found some irregularities in the cases Dad was assigned to clean up after. Mom, I think Dad might have been trying to expose something when he died." Elena looked at Marcus, panic in her eyes. Isabella was walking directly into the trap that had killed her father. "Isabella, listen to me very carefully," Elena said, her voice steady despite her fear. "You need to accept the Johns Hopkins offer and leave Atlanta today." "Mom, what's wrong? You sound scared." "I am scared. Please, Mika, just trust me. Take the offer and go." There was a long pause on the other end of the line. "Mom, are you in some kind of trouble?" Before Elena could answer, they heard a click on the line, and then a dial tone. Isabella had hung up, but Marcus suspected someone else had been listening to their conversation. "We need to get to the hospital," Marcus said, grabbing his keys. "Now." They drove through downtown Atlanta in tense silence, Marcus's luxury sedan cutting through traffic as Elena tried repeatedly to call Isabella's cell phone. Each call went straight to voicemail, and with each unanswered ring, their anxiety grew. Mercy General Hospital loomed ahead of them, a massive complex of buildings that housed some of the city's most advanced medical facilities. Marcus had attended charity events here, had shaken hands with board members and administrators who praised the hospital's commitment to serving the community. Now, looking at the imposing structure, he saw it differently. He saw it as a place where a respected surgeon had been systematically harming patients for profit. They parked in the visitor's garage and made their way to the main entrance. Elena led the way. Her familiarity with the building's layout evident in how she navigated the maze of corridors and elevators. But as they approached the research wing where Isabella worked, Eleanor suddenly stopped. "Mr. Wellington, look." At the end of the hallway, Marcus could see the two men from the office building. They were standing outside a door marked Research Laboratory, Dr. H. Blackwell, and they were clearly waiting for someone. "They're here for Isabella," Elena whispered. Marcus pulled out his phone and dialed 911, but Elena grabbed his arm. "Wait. If the police come now, Isabella might be caught in the middle, and we still don't know if Blackwell has people inside the police department." Marcus hesitated, then had an idea. "What if we create a distraction?" "What kind of distraction?" Marcus smiled grimly. The kind that a man with $200 million can create." He scrolled through his contacts and found the number for Atlanta's most prominent investigative journalist, Sarah Chen. Sarah had broken several major corruption stories over the years, and Marcus had met her at various social events. More importantly, she had a reputation for protecting her sources and working with law enforcement when necessary. "Sarah, it's Marcus Wellington. I have a story for you, but I need your help with something first." Within 30 minutes, Sarah arrived at the hospital with a camera crew and 2 FBI agents she had contacted. The agents, Special Agent Rodriguez and Special Agent Kim, had been investigating medical fraud in the Atlanta area for months and were very interested in the evidence Marcus and Elena had compiled. But as they approached the research wing, they found the hallway empty. The two men were gone, and when they checked the laboratory, Isabella was nowhere to be found. Where could she be?" Elena asked, her voice rising with panic. Special Agent Rodriguez was examining the laboratory when she noticed something. "Mrs. Rodriguez, does your daughter wear a medical alert bracelet?" "Yes, she's diabetic." "Why?" Agent Rodriguez held up a thin silver chain that had been broken and left on the floor near the laboratory door. "I think we need to move quickly." Marcus felt a surge of anger and determination. Isabella had been taken because of his intervention, because his money had made her visible to Blackwell. He was not going to let an innocent young woman pay the price for his good intentions. "Agent Rodriguez, what do you need from us?" "We need to find Dr. Blackwell. Do you have any idea where he might take her?" Elena thought for a moment. "Carlos used to talk about a private surgical suite that Dr. Blackwell maintained outside the hospital. He said it was where Blackwell performed procedures that he didn't want on the hospital's official records. Do you know where it is?" "Carlos mentioned it was in an office building downtown, but I don't know which one." Marcus's mind raced. "Wait, I might know. 3 months ago, Blackwell approached me about investing in a private medical facility. He said it was for exclusive procedures, for high-profile clients. I turned him down, but I remember the address." They drove through the city in a convoy of FBI vehicles and news vans, Marcus giving directions from the passenger seat of Agent Rodriguez's car. The building was in the financial district, a sleek glass tower that housed various professional offices and medical practices. As they approached the building, Marcus could see Blackwell's distinctive silver Mercedes in the parking garage. They had found him. The FBI agents moved with practiced efficiency, securing the building's exits while Marcus and Elena waited in the lobby. Sarah Chen and her camera crew positioned themselves to document whatever they found, while Agent Kim coordinated with local police to ensure no one could escape. They found Isabella on the 8th floor, in a surgical suite that looked like something from a high-end private hospital. She was conscious but restrained on an operating table, with Dr. Blackwell standing over her holding a syringe. "Dr. Blackwell, FBI, step away from the patient." Blackwell looked up, his face a mask of calm professionalism even in the face of arrest. "Agents, I'm afraid there's been a misunderstanding. Miss Rodriguez came to me complaining of severe abdominal pain. I was simply preparing to administer pain medication. With a paralytic agent, Agent Rodriguez had examined the syringe. "This is succinylcholine, doctor. This would have paralyzed her while keeping her conscious." Isabella's eyes were wide with terror, but she was unable to speak due to the restraints across her mouth. As the agents freed her, she collapsed into her mother's arms, sobbing with relief and fear. "Mom, I'm so sorry. I found Dad's hiding place, and I thought I could handle this on my own. I thought I could get justice for him." Elena held her daughter tightly. "You're safe now, Mika. That's all that matters." But Blackwell wasn't finished. As the agents moved to arrest him, he turned to Marcus with a cold smile. "Mr. Wellington, you have no idea what you've done. The people I work for, they don't forgive interference. Your money won't protect you from them." Agent Kim stepped forward. "Dr. Blackwell, you're under arrest for medical fraud, kidnapping, and attempted murder. You have the right to remain silent." As they led Blackwell away in handcuffs, Marcus felt a mixture of relief and apprehension. They had saved Isabella and exposed Blackwell's crimes, but the doctor's final words suggested this was far from over. Over the next several weeks, the story dominated local and national news. Sarah Chen's investigation revealed that Blackwell had been part of a larger network of medical professionals who were systematically defrauding insurance companies and harming patients across multiple states. The evidence that Carlos Rodriguez had collected became the foundation for a federal investigation that ultimately led to dozens of arrests and the recovery of millions of dollars in fraudulent billing. Isabella did accept the scholarship to Johns Hopkins, but not before testifying in federal court about her father's courage and her own experience with Blackwell. Her testimony was powerful and moving, and it helped ensure that Blackwell received the maximum sentence for his crimes. Elena continued working as a janitor, but now she did so with a sense of pride and purpose. She had helped bring justice for her husband and protection for countless future patients. The settlement from the federal lawsuit provided financial security for her and Isabella, but more importantly, it validated Carlos's sacrifice. Marcus found that the experience had changed him in ways he hadn't expected. His wealth had always been a source of pride and independence, but now he understood that true power came from using resources to protect and uplift others. He established a foundation dedicated to supporting whistleblowers and protecting vulnerable patients, with Elena serving as one of the board members. 6 months after Blackwell's arrest, Marcus received a letter from Isabella at Johns Hopkins. She was excelling in her studies and had been accepted into a prestigious residency program focused on serving underserved communities. But it was the final paragraph of her letter that moved him most. "Mr. Wellington, my father always taught me that the measure of a person isn't in what they accumulate, but in what they give away when it matters most. You gave my family hope when we had none, and then you gave us justice when we thought it was impossible. I promise you that when I become a doctor, I will carry forward the lesson you taught us, that kindness creates ripples we can't always see, but that those ripples can change the world." Marcus folded the letter carefully and placed it in his desk drawer, next to a photograph that Elena had given him. It showed Carlos Rodriguez in his hospital uniform, smiling as he cleaned an operating room. On the back, Elena had written, "To Marcus, who helped us finish what Carlos started." That evening, as Marcus worked late in his office, he heard the familiar sound of Elena's cleaning cart in the hallway. But now, instead of working alone, she was training 2 new employees, teaching them not just how to clean efficiently, but how to observe and protect the people who depended on their vigilance. "Good evening, Mrs. Rodriguez," Marcus called out, stepping into the hallway. "Good evening, Mr. Wellington. How was your day?" "Productive." "And yours?" Elena smiled, and Marcus could see a lightness in her expression that hadn't been there before. "Very good. I got a call from Isabella this afternoon. She's been selected for a summer research program at the CDC. She's going to help investigate medical fraud cases across the country." Marcus laughed, following in her father's footsteps. "Yes, but with better resources and protection this time." As Elena continued her work, Marcus returned to his office, but he left his door open. The sound of her humming drifted down the hallway, a gentle melody that spoke of hope and healing. Outside, the city lights twinkled in the darkness, each one representing a life, a story, a chance for connection and kindness. Marcus had learned that wealth without purpose was just numbers on a balance sheet. But wealth used to protect the vulnerable, to amplify the voices of the voiceless, to ensure that people like Carlos Rodriguez didn't die in vain. That was something worth building a life around. He pulled out his phone and scrolled through his contacts, looking for other opportunities to make a difference. There were always more stories like Elena's, more families struggling against systems designed to keep them powerless. But now, Marcus understood that he didn't have to face those challenges alone. He had allies like Elena, like Isabella, like the FBI agents who had risked their careers to pursue justice. The rain had stopped, and through his office window, Marcus could see the first hints of dawn breaking over Atlanta. It was going to be a beautiful day, full of possibilities and second chances. And somewhere in Baltimore, a young woman named Isabella Rodriguez was studying to become the kind of doctor her father had dreamed she could be, one who would never let the powerful prey on the powerless. Marcus smiled and returned to his work, knowing that the best investment he had ever made wasn't in technology or real estate or stock portfolios. It was in the simple act of caring about a janitor's daughter and discovering that sometimes the people we think we're saving are actually the ones who save us. If this story reminded you that kindness has the power to change lives in ways we never expect, please like this video and subscribe for more stories that celebrate the extraordinary courage of ordinary people. And if you know someone who needs to hear this message of hope and justice today, share it with them. Because sometimes the smallest act of generosity can set in motion a chain of events that transforms not just individual lives, but entire communities. The ripples of kindness never truly end. They just keep spreading, touching lives we'll never know, in ways we'll never fully understand.